The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us here once again on the Low Fact Podcast.
In the bunker.
I don't know where that came from. But Dave and Matt here, trying to make sense of things that make very little sense.
I like that too.
To that end, the term "it's human nature."
Ooh.
How do you feel about that?
I like that term.
See, I think it's a bit of a cop-out.
Why? Crunch, crunch, crunch.
I think it's another way of that people use to sit there and say it is what it is.
So they say, what? It's just human nature.
It's human nature. What is that supposed to mean?
It's usually when something shitty's going on, right?
Well, it's usually when people don't want to add an explanation or think about it.
So is it usually...
I mean, we've said it an awful lot.
Well, that's what I say our podcast is about. I say it's a funny and philosophical take on society and human nature.
So then what is our nature, really?
Our nature is...
And before you start trying to...
I'm going to regurgitate what you always say.
Before you want to start answering that question, doesn't it really kind of depend on what philosophical bent you are?
No.
Sure it does.
How? Why, you mean whether you're a Christian or an atheist or...
Those are philosophical bents, I suppose, but yeah, it really depends on where you're coming from.
But I know what yours is.
What do you mean?
I know what your view of human nature is.
Well,
I think I do.
If you do, then you're one up on me, because I still don't know what human nature is all about.
It's self-interest, preservation of yourself.
Yeah, but that doesn't quite fit for everything. I mean, is this going to have to be like math, where it works? In order for something to be a law or a proof, it has to work everywhere all the time.
No, not all the time, but maybe a majority.
Well, a simple majority? A preponderance, like 51% of the time?
Nah, man, 90%.
That's like reasonable doubt type territory.
I mean, I think if the majority being like a lot of people behave in that way, then I would say that that's a trait of human nature.
Right, but what do you mean? Just is it a regular majority? 51%? 50.1%?
No. It's almost everybody.
Super majority, like 66%?
Now, wouldn't you say almost everybody is self-interested?
Well, I would say pretty much.
Or everybody's self-interested.
Everybody is self-interested, but not everyone acts in a way that you would think is in their self-interest. People expect parents to sacrifice for their young'uns.
Shit,
That isn't necessarily in your self-interest.
That's true. Or the Christians too.
What about them?
You're supposed to turn the other cheek when somebody strikes you.
I don't think that means what you think it means.
Sure it does.
So as a Christian, you're supposed to be taken advantage of constantly?
Well, no. But you're not supposed to act out of anger.
Well, that's...
I mean, you're not supposed to let your anger get the better of you and respond to him.
Even that doesn't even work for a lot of the Christians.
I mean, but that's what Jesus preached, right?
That is
love thy neighbor.
That is a preaching.
That's like a tenet of the New Testament.
But who exactly is my neighbor? The person that lives right next to me?
It's anybody that's a stranger.
But they're not really my neighbor then. You're taking a pretty expansive view of my neighborhood then.
I'm taking the view that the Christian theologians take
of
his teaching.
That is a pretty expansive view of what my neighborhood is.
It is. Well, it's different. Jesus expanded it.
I don't know why you're going off on Jesus here, but...
I don't know, because I'm thinking of, like, Christian theology. Because I would say that if it was like the Old Testament, if you said love thy neighbor, it would be like people that are in your group. And everyone else that's not in your group, don't worry about it. But that's not what Jesus said.
Well, then there's a whole lot of people not following that tenet. Christian and otherwise.
Yeah, that's fair. But I still haven't answered your damn question of what's human nature.
Well, I think it's because it's not just one thing. I don't think human nature can be boiled down to just one thing. Which is why I really don't like the term, even though I use it quite a lot.
So maybe I shouldn't use that term in the description of our podcast then.
Well, now you're thinking out loud in a weird sort of way that no one wants to hear. But the whole point of the question was, saying, "Oh, it's human nature." I do think that it's a bit of a cop out because it's too hard to explain it. People's eyes would gloss over if you sat there and tried to explain human nature, just like anything, especially if they don't want to hear it.
Maybe you're a really good storyteller.
That doesn't matter.
Well, no, if you were a good storyteller, you could tell a parable that kind of describes what human nature is, and people might be like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, but you'd have to tell.
I'm going to follow this guy because he
you'd have
tells
to
some
tell
good parables.
you'd have to tell like 40, 50,000 parables.
No, not necessarily. Just a few good ones.
You think there's like a big five of what human nature is?
I think you could probably
Big
come
two?
up with like 10 or 20 parables to
Big one,
hit the big points.
big 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just surprised that you started talking about Jesus when you know very little about it.
I've read the frickin' Bible.
Oh yeah, you're so full of Jesus' love right now. I can feel it.
You don't have to look down upon me.
But that's the thing. You're projecting. I'm not looking down upon you. You're looking down upon me, thinking that I'm looking down upon you.
You're dissing my. You're saying I don't know anything about Jesus or Christian theology.
I don't know if you do or you don't.
You just said it.
What?
You just were like, yeah, you're for a guy that doesn't know very much about this stuff. You're sure pretending like you know a lot about this stuff. I don't need to know much.
Well, maybe that's a thing of human nature that's a problem as well. I don't need to know that much.
I mean, you just have to know. It's like the Cliff Notes, right? I mean, you just have to kind of know the big points.
Be good to everybody.
Of what Jesus taught, yeah. Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
Which you do constantly.
Love thy neighbor.
Which you don't really do.
Don't commit adultery.
Well, I don't know if you do it or not.
But don't covet thy neighbor's wife or his possessions.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's another thing that you're not really doing.
Don't lie.
Ugh. So basically, in order for me to follow Jesus' tenets is to do the opposite of what you do?
Actually, it's not Jesus' tenets that I'm talking about now. I'm doing the 10 Commandments.
Well, okay.
I'm doing Old Testament.
So in order for me to be okay with the Old Testament is to do the opposite of what you do?
Thou shalt not be a false witness.
Are you just talking because you have nothing to say?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was trying to think of all the 10 Commandments, but...
Wouldn't it be easier to just say, let's change the subject because there's nothing to say about this, or I have nothing to add, or...
No, I'd rather just keep on talking.
Well, that's a problem. Or is it?
I don't have anything intelligent to say about what human nature is. How about that?
Well, that would be a refreshing start. Okay, well then let's talk about something else, would be what I said, but you decide to go down this weird road of throwing commandments at me and tenets of Jesus, and I don't know.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. It's just I didn't think that I was going to church today.
Yeah, but that's it's an important topic if we're talking about human nature, isn't it?
I don't know if it is or isn't. We have to kind of establish what it is in the first place.
Well,
that was the whole point.
I got to go research this.
Anyway, that was the whole point, because human nature is not something that's so easily ascertainable. And yet, when you don't want to say much about something, you just kind of say, oh, it's just human nature. So to me, it seems like a bit of a cop-out.
So when people say that, it's usually after they've done something bad, right?
I don't know. They just kind of say it. To me, it seems to get thrown around as much as it is what it is.
No, it's usually when you're observing two people doing something really shitty to each other, and you say, oh, that's just human nature.
I never say that.
You know?
No, so that's a bad example.
Well, give me an example when somebody would say it. About what?
I'm scratching my leg.
I'm sure everybody can hear that. When would somebody say it?
Well, now that I've been put on the spot, I can't think of one.
Were you the one that came up with this damn topic?
So here we are, yet again, talking in circles.
I'm going to blame you for this one.
We of little intellect.
You should have like told me we were going to talk about human nature, and then I could have like done some research or something.
You wouldn't have done any research, and you know it.
Whatever.
Well, thank you very much.